Hey guys, Janus here. Before we get into the stretch portion of the Builder series, I would first like to take a bit of time and pay homage to a man that may very well be the true father of bodybuilding today. And no, I'm not referring to Eugene Sandow, though his accomplishments and feats are quite impressive. The man to which I refer is Arthur Jones, inventor of the Nautilus system, MEDX, and a well-known proponent of eccentric-based training. He believed that stretch that muscles undergo when lengthening was one of the key factors to growth. The same can be said for the intensity of the stretch. His work would go on to inspire the likes of Dorian Yates and become a mainstay of enormous bodybuilders like the Metzner brothers, and eventually lead to a total restructuring of rep dynamics as we know it. Beyond all of that, however, Arthur Jones is a personal hero of mine. Whenever I was younger and quite impressionable, I came across a magazine that talked about his work along with several words of wisdom by Mike Metzner. The take-home lesson for me was quality over quantity and eccentric over concentric work. Really taking those lessons to heart, really just committing to them, I would focus primarily on eccentric-based training regimens and doing no more than about 4 sets per session of any given exercise, and under no circumstances would I do any more. To this day, I still remember guys gawking at me and my bizarre training regimens, only to later on begin copying me as they saw how fast I started growing. And during that time, I learned an extremely valuable lesson that Arthur Jones and many proponents of eccentric-based training already knew, and that is muscles are designed to resist stretch. Let me repeat that one more time. Muscles are designed to resist stretch. Notice I'm not clarifying any one type of muscle tissue. The reason for this is, of course, pretty obvious. All muscle tissue is designed with that in mind. And because of this, muscles respond most heartily to training regimens centering around lengthening, and that includes vascular tissues as well. Even though we have these, three muscle paradigms in our mind, skeletal, smooth, and cardiac, the reality, however, is that we actually have several more distinct types of muscle tissue, one of which is endothelial cells. At this point, small mountains of papers and studies have been published and are publicly available showing endothelial cells are capable of recognizing, growing, and multiplying in the face of repeated bouts of stretch, more specifically eccentric-based stretch. Vascular tissue, by its very nature, is reactionary. This means that for most it will remain passive until a force is exerted upon it, causing it to distend. Upon distension, if it occurs above a given rate of speed, vascular tissue will begin immediately resisting that stretch via mechanical activation of rock receptors, which essentially help detect stretch physically and chemically. Furthermore, once vascular tissue has reached a sufficient degree of lengthening, it will automatically begin contracting to protect itself from being literally torn apart. What this means is that by exerting a great enough stretch upon vascular tissues, you can cause them to contract and therefore cause them to grow through similar methods that we see in bodybuilding. There is an enormous caveat, however. Unlike other muscle tissue types, vascular tissue has one hell of an advantage that no other type of muscle tissue boasts: latching mechanisms. What this means is that should vascular tissue undergo lengthy periods of distension beyond a handful of seconds, the contractile mechanisms will begin latching themselves in place to passively offer several fold greater amounts of resistance to stretch. However, latching can only really occur when cessation of motion occurs. So, by keeping the stretch dynamic versus static, we can keep latching from occurring. And just a quick note right here, this is also why you will have very little hope of gaining size from, say, penis extenders. They rely primarily on static as opposed to a dynamic stretch. Smooth muscles are specially designed to latch and then power down in the face of long enduring stretches. Well guys, that's it for this week's video. If you're new to my channel and you want to stay on top of my work, go ahead and hit that subscribe button now. Next week's video will hopefully be all about describing some of the intricacies I have come across in my cyclic stretch-based training regimens and research. I'll see everyone next Sunday, and as always, I'm your host, Janus, signing off.